We ready? How about that? Let's shoot it again. Pictures. All right. On me. In 3, 2. I'm here with Sonic. Now, Team Mario has made it no secret of their desire to trounce your team, Sonic. They even say they're going to wipe the track with you. And yet, you seem so confident that your athletes will prevail. Why?
Our team is well trained and ready to take home gold. I don't see anything stopping us now.
Oh, that's it. I am out of here. Get the van. Hey.
At the end of 2007, gaming history was made when two long rivals finally crossed over at the Olympic Games for some reason. Before I get into the history, I gotta talk about this commercial because look at this Sonic mascot costume. I've seen a lot of Sonic mascot costumes. In fact, there's a whole video series about them. But Mario looks pretty normal, looks pretty good. But Sonic, like, what the hell's going on with him? He's like super fat for some reason, and his arms look really weird. Now, modern day Sega has a lot of great mascot costumes, but this one, it just does not do it, especially compared to the Mario one. Like, why does it look like shit? Anyway, into the history of how Mario and Sonic crossed over at the Olympic Games. It's pretty well known that Sega and Nintendo had a pretty long rivalry until the 2000s when Sega went multi-plat and went to Nintendo. The reason I'm showing you this gameplay footage of F-Zero GX is that if you didn't see in the bottom left corner, Sega actually worked on this game, and they actually end up having a pretty good relationship that lasts to this day. Nintendo and Sega, once old rivals, are now great friends in the console market, well, the video game market, I should say. Both Sega and Nintendo are very interested in having the characters crossover. Takashi Iizuka and Shigeru Miyamoto apparently had meetings about possible games, but apparently the idea lacked initiative or innovation, which is kind of stupid, but that's what they thought. Showing two iconic video game franchises coming together to the Olympics to celebrate what the Olympics are known for. Competitiveness and collaboration between two worlds, well, multiple countries in this case, but here are two franchises, Mario and Sonic. When the trailer was first showed at E3 2007, people thought it was a joke because Mario and Sonic crossing over to play Olympic Games? Like, what the fuck? And the trailer is like epic as hell, despite the fact they were just playing Olympic Games. But no, this thing that I watched multiple times because I still in disbelief that this even exists, seeing Luigi next to Knuckles and Mario next to Sonic is still bizarre to me. No, this game is real. You can play as Yoshi versus Tails at table tennis. Amazing. Now, obviously, based off the behind the scenes, as I mentioned, that Nintendo obviously agreed to it because they also like the idea of the two companies coming together for the Olympics, celebrating camaraderie as the main goal. So, of course, when the game was released at the end of 2007, it was a big sales success, and they would go on to make multiple sequels. So does Mario & Sonic Olympic Games original hold up? Let's find out! Mario & Sonic Olympic Games has you choose between 9 different types of athletics to compete in, 25 total mini-games in total. And of course, all of these can be played by either a Mario or a Sonic character. This includes, from the Sonic side, Sonic, who's a speed-type character, Shadow, who's also a speed-type character, Knuckles is a power character, Vector, who's also a power character and the only member of the Team Chaos in the Olympic Games, Tails, who's a skill-type character, Dr. Eggman, who's a skill-type character, Amy, who's an all-around type character, and Blaze, who is also an all-around character. Blaze and Amy have unique outfits for Olympic Games, unlike the rest of Sonic Cast. On the Nintendo side, we have Mario, who's an all-around character, Luigi, who's also an all-around character, Peach, who's a skill-type character, Waluigi, who is obviously a skill-type character because he's got a lot of skills, Bowser, who's a power-type character, Wario, who's also a power-type character. Look at those muscles, of course he's got the power. Yoshi, who's a speed-type character. And finally, Daisy, who's also a speed-type character. And seeing how this is a Wii game, you can also select your Mii. However, there are more Sonic and Mario characters that do appear in the backgrounds. For referees, we have Toad, Shy Guy, and Lakitu, and for Sonic, we have Charmy, Cream, as well as Espio. So that's pretty neat to see those guys at least get some representation. And of course, the crowd is filled up with Flickies and Chao, as well as Toads, and all sorts of other Mario and Sonic characters. And instead of having world flags in the background, we have character face flags, or logos, which is kind of neat, as well as other iconography from the Olympics, like the Beijing 2008 logos, as well as their mascots, which are probably forgotten about at this point, but the Beijing 2008 Olympics were pretty big at the time. Despite all these character stats, in my opinion, based off the gameplay, is I barely have noticed any difference between the characters when it comes to what they play as, so really, whatever you want to play as is perfectly fine. So if you want to play as Sonic in all these games, you want to play as Waluigi through all the games, you can. The only real character difference I noticed that during the swimming event, if you play as Sonic, is the fact that he's not very good at swimming. This doesn't really affect the gameplay, but animation-wise, he also is the only character that wears a swimming vest because he can't swim, and his swim style is underwater running. His animation is him flailing around. That's a really funny detail. Unfortunately, I can't really get good footage of it, but there's plenty of footage of it in the newer Sonic Olympic games. Which brings us to the mini-games. Most of them are pretty basic, including stuff like running, long jumping, pole vaulting, gymnastics, shooting a gun, archery, and even fencing. This may look all fine and dandy, except there's one big problem with pretty much every single minigame. They're all motion control based. Since this game is not made by Nintendo, they aren't the best. The running, for example, causes you to flail your arms up and down constantly in very rapid and fast motion that even now as an adult is still straining. And yes, that's all you're really doing for this one minigame. In fact, most minigames are like that. So just keep in mind to be prepared to get a workout because this game requires you to do a lot of arm flailing. It is very strenuous. It is not the worst motion controls in the world, but it's definitely not smooth Nintendo motion controls that they usually do. In fact, some games that are similar to other Nintendo games, like the table tennis game, are just way better to play, like on Wii Sports or anything similar to that, because they do not play that well, which is a problem for most mini-games here. While it is charming to play as these Sonic characters at the Olympics, a lot of the mini-games just aren't that well designed, and they're more fun to watch rather than actually play. Well, I might as well go over the mini-games so you guys can understand where I'm coming from. Our first event track, which seems to have the most amount of events, which usually just involve you flailing your motion control around over and over again. The 100 meter is basically you charge B, then you go up and just mash the joystick, not the joystick, the Wiimote and nunchuck back and forth. Though you can do it without the nunchuck, but you know what fun is that? And yes, you can beat Sonic at a foot race, and you can lose as Sonic during a foot race against characters like Eggman and Bowser. I guess Eggman is fast, but someone like Bowser or Wario is pretty funny. The 400 meter version of the 100 meter one is pretty much the same, except now you gotta press the B button for your heart meter to go up, or you'll lose stamina. It's pretty basic, you just gotta time it right. It has a little bit more strategy, but still nothing too special. The next version of the track game is 4x 100 meters, which is basically just the baton pass, where you do 100 meters and then you have to signal the next character, which can be played in multiplayer, to actually have you and another person do it, which is kind of fun. This one is probably the best version of this game since there's a little bit more strategy about having to swap your baton to the next player. It still isn't that fun because, like I said, flailing the Wiimotes back and forth is just not the funnest thing to do in the world, but it is fun to have a bunch of other Mario and Sonic characters pass the baton back and forth to run. Just don't mind the fact that Big the Cat is stalking you from a distance, and no, I do not know why he's back there. He's just a creep like that. The next version of the track minigame is 110 meter hurdles, which is pretty much the same, except now we got hurdles. You gotta press the B button to jump over. It just adds a little bit more to it, and I do like this one over the 100 meters more. Pretty much anything's better than 100 meters regular because that one's just kind of bland. So this one is probably my favorite one, maybe. And the final track minigame is 400 meters hurdles, which is just the other two minigames combined together. It's the long distance with the stamina as well as jumping over hurdles, so pretty basic. For the field minigames, we have the long jump, which requires you to do the running motion until it's locked and then jump over a certain area at just the right time. Though the timing can be a little finicky if you do not know exactly what it is and to retry it multiple times to get it right, which would be fine if there wasn't so much stuff in the way for getting you to redo a certain thing over again, because there's a lot of filler in this game. Even though the minigames are short, they have a lot of, you gotta see everyone's percentage, replay animations, ceremony animations, failure animations, restart animations, where it wouldn't be that bad if you could skip them faster, but you really can't. And for some of these minigames, which you really need to get used to some of the timing, can be pretty annoying if you don't know exactly what you're doing. But overall, this one's pretty basic once you get the timing down. The next field event is the triple jump, which is pretty much similar to the long jump, except now you gotta do triple jumps, which once again is more timing based on anything. And like I said, it can be a little fickle, but if you play it multiple times, you should get the timing down right. The next field event, the hammer throw, really isn't that much of a field event because it's pretty different, but I guess they decided to put it here. The hammer throw is pretty fun, if not a little annoying sometimes, since you gotta time your throw by spinning your Wiimote around really fast. It really makes you swirl that thing around, and then let it go at just the right time in order to get the highest. Though it can still go out of bounds, which can happen more often than you want it to. Like most of the other games, this one's about timing. Set timing while also focusing on the fact that you gotta twirl a Wiimote around as fast as possible. Up next in the field category is the javelin throw, which adds running as well as throwing. This one's also pretty much mostly based off your timing, and it's also pretty fickle because the timing in this game can be pretty fickle-dickle. The next event is the high jump. Now this one's interesting as you get to choose what height you get, and the more height you do, obviously, the more points you get. So that's pretty neat. This one's fun because you have to see characters that do funny animations here, and they look goofy as hell as they do it. I mean, look at that. Look at my man Waluigi go. The reason why this one's so fun is because you get to see characters do this jump animation. Waluigi's funny, but characters like Bowser and Wario are even funnier because how fat they are. And the last field event is the pole vault, the classic game where you have to charge up and then time it perfectly for you to get your fat ass character over that pole. And apparently Eggman can jump. Now you know. For the gymnastics category, there's only 2 events, being the trampoline and, well, you know, the basic gymnastics. Now, the trampoline event is definitely probably the best one in the game because it requires the least amount of finicking with the motion controls. It's all about use pattern recognition and actually pressing buttons in a fast way in order to get that most amount of points. In a fast way, it works pretty well. There's a lot more going on here. It's not about jerking that Wiimote as fast as you can. It's actually about doing actual interesting things. So yeah, this one's probably the best one in the game, but that's not really saying a whole lot. The next style of gymnastics minigame is the vault one, which requires you to run and then do that. Just spin around multiple times. It looks kind of janky, but you know, whatever. For the shooting minigame, there's only one option, being skeet. This minigame is pretty basic. You basically are just doing a Zapper-esque style Wii shooting minigame, which was all the rage on the Nintendo Wii. Though, to be honest, there are way better shooting games on the Wii than this one, since trying to find a pixelated flying disc can be pretty annoying. As a matter of fact, I'd rather play the Duck Hunt version of this game than this one, because that's just how not that well thought out it is. It's not an interesting background and just not that fun minigame compared to other games that have done this one way better, but that's just me. Then, of course, there's rowing minigames, which instead of making you forcefully, rapidly press the Wiimote, you're actually doing button combinations at the right amount of time in order to get the best amount of row, which makes it more strategical and more fun to play than rapidly shaking the Wiimote and nunchuck around. This one is actually done better. You wouldn't expect that from the rowing minigame, but it is. The archery minigame requires you to focus on a certain point, so it's more strategical than the skeet ones, which is just shooting pixelated objects in the distance. Here, you actually gotta line it up just right using the button combinations and then letting go. So I think it's better than the skeet. Next up is the swimming minigame, which is pretty similar to the running one, except you're doing a different Wiimote motion pattern, but it is better, at least in my opinion, while also using a stamina gauge. I don't know why this one just works better for me. The big difference here is that you can have a different motion pattern to use, as well as kicking back on the backside. And other than that, it's pretty basic here. There's only 2 versions of this, being the basic 100 meter and the 4x100 meter freestyle, which is the same, except they shake up what motion pattern you do while swimming, which can be a little annoying, and the fact that every time you're done one of the swimming routes, you swap between the characters, much like in the 4v100 meter that we saw in the running category. So nothing too jarring here. Jousting is the next minigame, and it's pretty basic because this is not a Motion Plus based game, so really all you're doing for the most part is just stabbing your opponent over and over again, and you will win. There is no difficulty here, so it's pretty easy to win here. There is other things you can do, like a regular swipe, or a guard, or a back up, but for the most part it's so basic that really all you're doing is waiting for the computer, then stabbing them. It's that easy. It's not good. For this one, I gotta say, there are way better Wii games that have similar style minigames, so you're way better at playing them than this, unless you really want to stab Vector the Crocodile. Next up is table tennis, which in my opinion is the most egregious, seeing as the fact that every Wii console came with Wii Sports, and Wii Sports has tennis. This is way worse than tennis. It's just a very basic tennis game. In fact, Sega Superstars Tennis is better than this. It's just a very bare-bones basic version of the game, but nowhere near as fun as Wii Sports Tennis, or even Sega Superstar Tennis, which has Sonic in it. So, why would you play this? I have no idea. One of the most unique things you'll see is in the center of the game screen, once you unlock all the events, which some of these you have to unlock, most of them just beating a circuit, is the Dream Events category. This includes Dream Race, where you're basically doing the same thing as you do in the Hurdle Race, except you can move around this time and get power-ups in stars, which is pretty interesting. Like, you can get items like Mario Kart with the exact same question mark block, and the same items, which allow your character to run faster. These are actually way funner than the actual regular Olympic Games. It's more Mario and Sonic based. The Dream Race has different courses you can go through, like a sand course, obviously, grasslands and stuff like that. But yeah, it's surprisingly way more fun. The next Dream course is the Dream Platform. Here you gotta go through the hoops and get items in order to win, as well as doing gymnastic style tricks. These Dream minigames are much more involved than the regular ones, since you're doing a whole lot more. It's so interesting that these are so Mario and Sonic based that you wish the rest of the game was kind of like this. Not that Olympic Games are bad or anything, but it's kind of a shame that we so far have not gotten a Mario and Sonic full-on crossover that isn't Olympic Games based. But Mario and Rabbids of all things have. Like, what the hell's going on here? And while this minigame is fun, it does not beat skydiving in Wii Sports Resort. That was a great game. The next Dream minigame is Dream Fencing, which is pretty much the same as regular fencing, with just different backgrounds. So if you want to see Piantas dancing in the background, then, well, here you go. So yeah, the last two Dream events just aren't as interesting, including Dream Table Tennis, which is just table tennis with different environments. Don't know why they had fencing and table tennis again, even though they're pretty much exactly the same, with very slight variations, nothing too exciting there. That's pretty much all there is to say about Mario & Sonic Olympic Games. There are other things, like a gallery which allows you to play very basic matching style mini-games in order to unlock some Olympics trivia, as well as seeing some of your records, and circuit modes, which is the way you unlock some games, which just are basically just playing the mini-games in a certain order. So there's nothing too special there. I don't think Mario & Sonic Olympic Games has aged that bad. At the same time, the overuse of the motion controls to a degree where you really can't play this game for very long at a time. It's really not that best playing by yourself. It is fun to play a little bit with friends, but overall, I think the other Olympic Games have much improved on this formula. So going back to the original Olympic Games game, is not the best one in the world. You're much better off playing the most recent one. There really isn't any obvious flaws to the game, it's just there's much better other games in this vein on the Wii, and of course later on, than this one. Though it's very neat to see Mario and Sonic characters cross over, there is a charm to it that is still hard to replicate even to this day. I know when I first got this back in 2007, I was a wee little kid, I definitely enjoyed it, even though it hasn't held up that well. So if you're interested, why not give it a shot? I don't think you'll be disappointed, but it is not high art. You're playing off better games, including in this series, but still, it's not bad. Now, there is also a DS version of this game, but since that one's pretty different, I will be covering that in a separate video, so stay tuned for that.
As the competition heats up in Beijing, you can compete with family and friends in more than 20 Olympic events. With Mario and Sonic and 16 of your favorite characters. Track and field, table tennis, swimming, archery. You can bring home the gold. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Whose team are you on? Available on Wii and Nintendo DS. Rated E for everyone. Game and system sold separately.
When it comes to finding this game, you know it hasn't been re-released. The Wii is a pretty easy console to find, so if you don't have a Wii, what are you doing? And this game is actually incredibly cheap, if you can tell, with only a $10 complete price, well, $11 price. So really there's no excuse not to have this game if you really want to try it out. It's super cheap. You'll probably even find it less than this price if you're out in the wild or at a game store. So if you're really interested, go ahead and buy it. If you're a Mario and Sonic collector like I am, I love both franchises, I didn't mention that. I am a bigger Sonic fan, but you can't not be a Mario fan too. Mario's great, come on. It's like the Marvel vs. DC people, like, I like both. I mean, I prefer Marvel, but DC has great stuff too, so not liking DC over that. Same thing with Sony, or Xbox versus PlayStation, I like both. Mario vs. Sonic, I like both, but I am a little bit biased towards Sonic, even though Mario might have better games overall. Especially better spin-offs, but some of the main Sonic games are really great. Anyway, now on to my last part of the video, which is ranking the game, which is kind of hard since it's very unique, but let's see where I put it on the tier list. I didn't put Mario Sonic very high on the tier list, mostly because I think the game's more interesting to talk about and look at than actually play it, and since I think the other games improve on the formula much more than the original game, so I have it in around a high C tier. It's an all-around okay game, probably a 6 out of 10, which isn't awful, but it definitely, for Mario's spin-off standards, is not very high, but for Sonic spin-off standards, pretty high. Sonic spin-offs just aren't that great, unfortunately, compared to the mainline games. But yeah, Mario Sonic's a very interesting time capsule, and it won't be the last time we talk about Sonic crossing over other franchises, because we're going to be doing that pretty soon. But yeah, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more of my video game reviews on the channel, as well as my other stuff I do. Thank you for watching, and have a very swell day.